guys, Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Welcome to the video, guys. How are you doing? I'm doing great. Still getting ready for Halloween. We have the whole yard decorated, have my costume all ready to go. I'm gonna be a Ghostbuster with my son. Pretty excited, man. It's been a long friggin' time since I've been excited about Halloween, but you get to relive all that stuff when you're a parent. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I can't lie. I can't lie. Anyway, guys, I missed you. You don't know that I was gone, but I was gone. I was traveling. I had some pre-recorded videos the last couple of days, and I miss talking to nobody here in my room, even though it's getting out to, you know, thousands of you guys on the internet, which is, I'm rambling here. I'm rambling. Today's video, I got to thinking in my travels, is, you know, what is it about artifacts that I currently do right now that I used to not do at all in the game, right? And I wish I had done earlier. And it's very, very clear. And I want to kind of zero in on 3 artifact sets that everybody can farm from each of the traditional dungeons. So I'm picking out, like, the most valuable, in my mind, the absolute most valuable set in Dragon's Lair, Ice Golem's Peak, and Fire Knight. Why am I mentioning this? Before I give you the sets, guys, I wish I had gone back and farmed these sets and saved my energy, right? Saved my energy on this account and my mini account. And I wish I had farmed these sets when there was either a super raid or a double times chance event to get those artifacts, right? These artifacts, to me, are so valuable, and I find myself using them more and more and more and more and more in the game. So let's start out with the most obvious one. You can see it right now. We have super raid right now, 2 times. Yes, please, right? This is exactly a perfect time to farm Dragon's Lair. What we're also looking for, and this is usually the case, is we want to make sure there's a dragon tournament going on at the same time so we can get bonus rewards. So saving all my energy for a super raid, a double chance the artifact type that I want, and I'm getting bonus stuff in the dragon tournament. That is being super efficient, trying to go after one of the best sets in the game, which is speed artifacts, right? I'm going to show you my favorite champions to use with all these artifacts. Speed's an obvious one. Everybody knows that speed is, you know, one of the top sets in the game, if not the top set in the game. But there's a few other I want to mention here, and it goes beyond just the dungeons. I want to start with the dungeons. Ice Golem Peak, right? Reflex, man. Reflex, reflex, reflex. I never cared at all about reflex gear until they buffed it, and now I find myself with a woeful lack of reflex gear on my account, right? I'm like having to mule artifacts around. I'm having to pay silver out the you-know-what because I'm broke all the time because I'm trying to move my reflex gear around. This gives you an incredible reason to farm Ice Golem's Peak. Ice Golem's Peak, widely considered maybe the worst dungeon in terms of the artifacts compared to Fire Knight and Speed, where there's a number of just S-tier sets. There's some decent sets here. You can get value out of defense, get value out of life, resistance, crit rate, retaliation, reflex, but there's some kind of mess sets like Cursed and Taunting, and it's kind of clutter up a little bit. Offense, I don't really care for that much, except for the early game. Either way, though, reflex. Have I made my point? I'm going to show you a bunch of champions that I use in reflex gear in just a moment here. And then Fire Knight, I mean, regen and specifically Savage, right? Savage is so freaking good. Ignoring 25% of enemy defense, that's, it's super powerful. And you're going to be using it on all of your arena nukers, right? Basically every single one you got. So you're going to need a lot of Savage gear. So Fire Knight Castle, whenever they have an extra or super raids or an extra Savage event, I am always now using my resources there. And you got great sets like Stun and Regeneration, crit damage as well. Heck, I even like Curing and Immunity, right? So there's a lot of good options there. Now, I'm not done yet. Before I show you my favorite champions in each of these sets, I have to talk about the best set in the game, arguably, and this is a great reason to do your faction wars every day. Perception is so good. Getting 40 accuracy and 5 speed is, if the glyphs aren't enough for you guys, get your faction wars done, get your bloodstones, and farm up perception gear. There's a lot of champions that I just have trip sets of perception, like Mithrala Lifebane, for example. Just triple perception. It's a ton of extra accuracy. Obviously, we're getting 120 accuracy from a trip set, plus 15% speed. That is insane. So Perception is probably my most used set on my entire account. And, you know, what I do with Perception gear is I wait for a clan versus clan tournament. I save up, you know, all my charms, my rank and my rarity charms, and then I just summon a bunch of Perception gear. However, Lethal, right? We talked a little bit about Savage Gear. Lethal's the better version. Crit rate plus 10%, ignores 25% of enemy defense. You know, we're also going to have crit damage gauntlets on most of our nukers in the arena, right? So getting that extra crit rate is always going to be, you know, A1 in terms of our priorities on substats on our other artifacts. So going after lethal is super important. I really, massively regret every day that I didn't use, especially now that they've added the auto attacks, the super raids and auto attacks.
And you call yourself a professor?
Yeah, I think they always had auto, but the super raids or whatever, right? To the bosses on Doom Tower, man, every Dark Fae rotation, gonna come up with an auto team, right? And then you gotta farm it every day because lethal is so freaking good. I'm telling this halfway to myself because I'm guilty as charged. I don't do it every day. I do it when I remember it, but it's like less of my priorities. But lethal gear is so freaking good. It is incredible gear. So those are my favorite, absolute favorite sets in the game. Let me just show you some of the champions that I use in each of these sets. I also love like stone skin and stuff like that, but you know, that's Hydra, a little bit a different thing there. So we're obviously using our Hydra attacks, right? Let's start out with just obvious stuff, right? You know, Trunda, probably one of my #1 nukers on the account. We have her in Savage Gear. We had a little bit of crit rate, but if I had lethal gear, I wouldn't need this crit rate. As a matter of fact, it looks like I don't even really need the crit rate at all. Better to replace it with crit damage. But either way, Savage Gear is going to be on your best nukers, along with the Helm Smasher Mastery. It's a great pairing, right? We also have Retribution on this character. All right, next up, we're going to show you some of my favorite lethal champions, and that's going to be the Candyman. Where are you, man? Where are you, Candyman? Right in front of my face.
Now I see fire.
There you are. There you are.
Burning the tree.
The Lord is testing me.
So again, Helm Smasher with lethal. Now this guy is a boss. We want him to ignore as much defense as humanly possible. So getting that 25% on the lethal, getting the extra 10% crit rate. You can see his stats are nice and juicy there. Pretty beast mode. The last lethal champion that I will show you guys, just because I love the Statue of Liberty, man. What a cool champion. I'm not super happy with this build, but she's a tough champion to build, right? You need accuracy and you need a lot of crit rate and crit damage on her and some attack, so it's a challenge. However, I also have her in lethal. I was able to get exactly 100% crit rate, which is where we want to be with all our arena nukers, or all our nukers in general, with the help of the lethal set, as opposed to Savage, we'd be stuck at 90%, you know, if we had the same stats on the gear. So let's talk about reflex really quickly here, guys, because you know, I mean, if you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, you know I gush over reflex. It's so strong. You're getting a 40% chance to reduce the random skill cooldown by 1 turn. On a champion like Contra the Cyclone, I mean, we have this A2, we're putting like all these buffs, 3 of these buffs we're potentially putting on this A2, and that's the only active skill, right? So we could turn off, if you had an active A3, we could turn it off and just get more of this, right? And just cycling 40% to reduce the cooldown every single time she takes a turn. That was a massive buff to the reflex set, and it makes champions like Contra, she's just dishing out these debuffs almost on a 2-turn cooldown, you know? It's really profound what you can get out of that.
No, someone's gonna get more attention than me.
I run so many champions in reflex gear now, and as I said, unfortunately, I do have to mule it around a little bit. I run Geomancer in reflex, and I shut off his A2 ability. You don't have to shut off his A2 ability, it's still a great ability, but I like to land more of those quicksand grasps, more HP burn to synergize more with his Stone Guard passive. You guys know I actually did a video remaking or rebuilding Ugo, one of my favorite champions in the game. Yeah, I built her in reflex because her abilities are so freaking strong that getting either of these off cooldown or 1 turn less on cooldown is so incredibly strong inside this game. So yeah, I mean, I run so many. Royal Guard's another one, right? I run him in reflex and I shut off the A3 ability, so he's doing more takedowns. That cooldown's gonna go directly to the A2. It's gonna be applied to the A2. So yeah, reflex, man, I wish I had more of it. I wish I had more of it. That is just game changing. I mentioned regeneration, and although it's not like my A1 set, I will say, just as a final kind of note to you guys, I wish I had more good regen gear as well. Back in the day, no one really used regen that much, but now I use it basically on a lot of support champions, or champions that are going to be taking a lot of damage, or champions that are going to solo basically anywhere in the game. So champions like Uros of Soul Cage, champions like Tomb Lord here in regeneration. I use it on, I don't use it right now on Ultimate Death Knight, but dude, this guy is a boss when you put him in regeneration gear if you want to solo dungeons as well. Who else do I use? I use Martyr as well. Provokers going to be healing themselves. So this is like my best regen gear on these champions. But I mean, regen's really, really solid as well. Heals by 15% every turn. Regen plus Immortal especially. You're getting those nice, juicy 18% heals. You want to stack up as much HP as possible. Probably a bad example on the stat line there of Martyr. I did want to build her very, very fast for whatever build I was using her on. Anyway, guys, those are my regrets, I'll call them. Maybe not mistakes, but my biggest artifact regrets. I wish I had spent more time on those dungeons during those tournaments, optimizing my time, especially in getting better bang for my buck. And I plan on doing that through the future, whether it's Dark Fae, whether it's Super Raids, and whether it's an extra chance at those particular artifacts that I pointed out. Guys, let me know, which is your most used artifact set? Would love to hear from you guys, especially if it's not one that I mentioned, in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and as always, take care, guys.